let's talk about the differences between like guards and combs. There is no difference, especially if you're using Hanzo's combs, because Hanzo's combs are 1/8 of an inch apiece. The same thing as a number 1 guard. A number 2 guard is 1/4 of an inch, 2/8 inches added together. So if you need a number 2 guard, it's as simple as stacking combs together. This is one of the things that will keep everything predetermined between the scalp and the hair and where you're cutting. I think that that's a lot of the complication with people, is trying to float a comb or using too short of scissor to do too big a job. So what I'm going to use here is the HH2 7.5, and I'm going to cut scissor over comb by first carving out the line that I want to see, working up to that line, and then blending the line up into the rest of the hair. Simple enough. So the first thing we want to do is get the hair slightly damp. The reason we want to get the hair wet before we get started is it's going to give us more of a profound line to work off of. What I want to do is take my C1, which has loose teeth, and it's just going to provide distance between the scalp and my blades, and stack it behind our C2 comb, which has tighter teeth and allows me to really control that hair back and forth and get the look that I'm looking for. So I'm going to take that and place it behind there, and I'm going to come over and cut my first line. A lot of people are under the impression that when they're cutting scissor over comb, that they should start from the bottom and work up. I couldn't agree less. If you start where you want to see your taper and you cut that hair first, you're getting a lot of hair out of the way before you even get started. So I've cut that first line. You can clearly see it. And I want to shift back around here to right in front of the mastoid bone. That's that little entity of everybody's fade that creates that little square look right here that bothers everyone and they don't know how to dig it out. We're going to take a parting right underneath the first line across that flat of the head, lift that up, and place the combs on it. We're going to bring the comb up until we can see the pre-cut line through the spine of the teeth, and then we're simply going to roll that comb forward and flat. So you can see that the comb is running right along the side of the head now. When you cut that off, you're utilizing head shape, which is going to give you the perfect drop. It will always aim at the occipital, providing you over-direct your comb flat to the side of the head after cutting the first line. We're going to come to the other side and do the exact same thing. So taking my parting, lifting up, laying that in there, and cutting. Again, back to the mastoid section of the head, take a parting just underneath your first one, lift it up, get the comb in, and roll the comb flat to the side of the head, cutting that off. Again, the perfect drop. Now the game's over. I feel like the guesswork is what creates a lot of discouragement with people. But now, in just 4 cuts, we can see both sides and how it drops and can visually make that connection from side to side. So we're going to come in here. And cut out that shape. So we can clearly see now all the way around what we're working with. Now, instead of working from the bottom up, we're still going to work from the top down, taking 1/2-inch sections all the way down the head. It's like sculpting clay or carving wood. You have to have your shape before you can put the detail in. Putting detail in too early is a waste of time. So I don't even worry about any lines that I may put in, which you can clearly see. There's 1, 2, and 3 lines there. Because by the time I go back up one time, they'll be completely gone. So we're going to do this all the way around, removing the hair from just underneath the first section that we cut down. Making sure that we're protecting the ear with the comb. So you can quickly see by working from the top down and then working back up once, it really cuts down on the amount of times you have to make passes with your scissor and comb. So at this point, we've cleaned it all out and it's all one length, basically a number 2 guard or 1/4 of an inch. We're going to start to blend this out now from here up. He generally wears his hair up and back, so we want to predetermine where that's going to live. To blend this out and be efficient, I'm going to use my Hattori Hanzo 88. It has 14 teeth and 13 channels. It's like thinking about sandpaper, right? Anytime you're trying to smooth out wood, you always use a coarse sandpaper and then use a fine sandpaper. Same thing with the texturizers. Wider teeth is a little bit coarser. It's going to get a lot more work done fast for me. And the fact that Hanzo's texturizers slide through dry hair like warm butter allows me to work in a circular motion, keeping the hair trapped at the spine of the comb at all times, as opposed to kicking the hair up and down the blade every time I'm trying to work. As you can see, in just one pass in 2 sections, this texturizer gets a lot done for me very, very fast. So now that we've knocked down the initial weight with the 88 ones, we're going to move to the 2T. This has 27 teeth, 26 channels. The thing that sets this apart from a lot of texturizers is its design. The spine is curved, and then all the teeth have a curve to them as well. So when you're blending out hair, especially fine hair that's more blonde than anything else, it's not going to leave those horizontal lines that a lot of texturizers typically leave. And I just want to polish out the shape with it. Again, working in that circular motion because they slide out, it starts to just give that flawless blend. So I think one of the most important things about cutting the top of the head is definitely knowing where the hair starts to move forward versus moving back. The way to easily get to that is just to wet the hair down, comb the hair in the direction that it naturally wants to go, and give it a couple of taps. It will immediately separate and show you which direction it wants to live, which is always going to be your best result for styling. I'm going to cut through the top with my Mamba or HHV 6-inch lefty. It's probably my preferred shear for cutting through the tops of hair. I feel like it gives me a lot of accuracy. It's got a slender blade. And being that it's a hybrid scissor, meaning it's a carbon steel scissor on straight blades, it allows me to work wet or dry. So even if the hair is drying as I move, I don't need to switch a tool or feel like it starts to push things out of my blades. So the easiest way to break this down is just look at it like a beach ball. Take the apex, like the top of a beach ball, and then pie-shaped sections that travel around there. And the first thing we want to do is we're going to elevate this out at 90 degrees. And we're going to cut straight up from where we stopped. Taking the next section, and you're just going to continually follow that shape. So last section, we're going to make sure that we come, again, straight up that shape. And then we'll move around to the other side. So through the top, before we take this next curve, he, like a lot of people that I've dealt with lately in the salon, have kind of embraced that longer hair that COVID has unfortunately brought on. And so in working with that, we want to make sure that we stay disconnected from the top to the back, and then we're going to connect them at the end. So you saw me cut that shape all the way around up or vertically, and now we're going to cut this taking vertical sections. I'm going to project this straight up at 90, and I'm going to take this off. Notice that I didn't even touch the front because I want to retain that new length. We're going to cut straight back and try to stay as square as possible to create the most masculine shape. So now we want to start to connect from the back to the front along the side, removing the remaining weight off of there in order to get that proper shape that we were just previously talking about. So now we want to start to create the shape that we're looking for back here by connecting the top to the back and then taking the shape around. The easiest way to do that is mimic the shape of the head. The best way to go about that is to just palm it and then bring it straight out from there and cut around your finger shape. So you can clearly see what I'm doing is protecting the hair I've already cut with the tips of my finger, protecting the hair that I've cut here, and then I'm just going to cut that corner off to give proper shape to the back. That way, no matter which way it lays, it always lays well and lays in that shape. Through this corner above the parietal ridge, we want to project it straight out at 90 degrees and give it slight point cutting to just diffuse the weight that falls over the sides. Now for the finishing touches. In order to get a flawless blend and to remove the remainder of the weight from the parietal ridge up, we're going to start with the 88 T1. And then to finish, we're going to use the 2T, that's the one with 27 teeth and 26 channels, for the final blend. I think that texturizer selection is very, very important, and knowing your client's hair is equally as important. Sometimes to use a more aggressive texturizer is going to remove too much and start to show too much skin through the hair. For instance, if I were to use a 40T on this application, it would start to pull his skin through and start to look more blotchy. When I'm working up through and above the parietal ridge, to remove that final weight so it doesn't leave an edge, I simply go off of this angle from the parietal ridge up, and I bring the comb straight up and off of the hair, closing the texturizer only once or twice each section. Last but not least, to gain some control in the fringe area and getting it to move back a little bit more effortlessly for the client, I'm going to take the first parting from the fringe and comb it out of the way. I'm going to take the second parting, walk around, and project this forward. I'm going to roll that same texturizer over in my hand, and then I'm going to come through and I'm going to weave through there, closing it and back combing it at the ends and then moving forward. This gives a lot of control by wrapping the hair around an oval shape and weaving it. It allows for the hair to lock in place, kind of like a basket holds itself together. So what you get immediately is a lot more control and it to lay back really, really smoothly for you. Looks great. I'm Collin Martin with Hattori Hanzo Shears. Thanks for tuning in.